What's up guys, Jonathan here, welcome back to the channel. I was able to achieve financial freedom through real estate investing at 27, and this channel is all about helping you do the same, breaking down the strategies that I use or are using today to figure it out the same way you are. If you're into that, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would love to have you here. We put out videos every week, if not more than once a week, and we just go through every tactic we use. Today we're talking about goal setting, how I goal set, and what I think is the most effective way to hit your yearly and quarterly goals. Let's get into it. All right, so first off, some might ask, what is the point of a goal? And it sounds obvious, but from reading an awesome book, which I highly recommend, called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, they talk about the concept of the point of a goal is not actually to hit that goal. The point of a goal is to know what you should be doing every day, step by step, in order to achieve that goal. Like, there are very few goals that you can hit in one day, if it's any goal of significance. So the point of that goal is to know, what is my North Star to stay on track to hit that goal in a quarter, in a year, in 5 years, maybe in a lifetime, but at least you know, am I on track to hit this goal? It kind of goes like that line from The Wizard of Oz. If you don't know where you want to go, then it doesn't matter what direction you start in. And there's a million analogies to think about it. It could be like a plane taking off in New York with an end destination of Los Angeles. If it's in the wrong direction by 2 degrees, it'll end up in a totally different country. Or if you're trying to figure out how to buy a rental property and you don't have your investment criteria, how are you going to know if you're buying a good deal or a bad deal? So by having the end goal in mind, that North Star, it makes it very easy to know, am I on track? Am I on track for my day, my week, my month, my quarter, my year, to know if you're going to hit your big goals, your wild, audacious goals that a lot of books talk about. So we're going to get into the how, but it's good to know why a goal is important. All right, so before we get into actual goals, like what do I want to do? What kind of car do I want to drive? How many properties do I want to own? How many YouTube subscribers do I want to have? What I want you to think about is something that we're going to link below, but it's from a guy named Frank Kern, where he talks about how to have the perfect day. And this is now how I think about envisioning my life alongside my big goals. See, I used to only have goals that were, I want this thing, and I want to make this much money, and I want to help this many people. But what Frank talks about in this video, which completely rocked me, is it's not about all the stuff and the things, it's about a repeatable day that you feel fulfilled in, that you could live out every day if you had to. I don't want to give it all away. I mean, he does an amazing job explaining it, much better than I could myself. But still, the point is, I want anyone to start there with, what do you envision your life to look like? Where do you want to wake up? Who do you want to talk to? What do you want to eat every day? What are the things you do for fun? What are the things you do for fulfillment? And I'll share an example of mine, but it's a really powerful tool because I think a lot of us are just going through life, we want to achieve this goal, we want this thing. And what he talks about in that video is that it's not about the thing or the goal, it's about the experience and the people. And again, I thought that was very hoity-toity, like, no, I'm going to be a billionaire, I want all this stuff. But then this year, something weird happened to me where I achieved financial freedom through real estate. And I had to ask myself the question, what would I do if money didn't matter? What is something I could do every day that would get me excited, a new challenge to tackle, the people I want to hang out with? And this exercise is basically what got me through it. I might have been depressed if I didn't have something like this, because I always thought the next goal, the next thing will make me happy. But this video really turned me on my head with that. So I highly recommend checking it out. And that's where I think anyone should start when they're thinking about goal setting or life planning. Only after that do I think it's appropriate to move into the question of, what are my life goals? Where do I want to be someday in 20 years, 30 years, when I'm on my deathbed, all these sorts of things. You hear people, they put out these big life goals. Like one, for example, of someone that we follow a lot is Gary Vee. He wants to buy the jets, but he wants to do it in 20 or 30 years. That's his North Star that every day helps him decide on what his action should be to build a legacy, to make money, to do all these things to actually achieve that. But what I want you to think about is, which bucket of your life do you want which goal to be in? But it comes from a book, The One Thing, and basically what it talks about is there are these different buckets of life. And I'm going to read them off here because they're really important to think about goal setting and making sure that you're checking the box in each of these areas. They explain it really well, but the 7 areas are spiritual life, physical health, personal relationships, personal life, job, business, and finances. And some of those you might think are overlapping, but you could dig into it a little bit more. But basically, another concept that the book talks about is some of these matter more than others. So what they say is key relationships and your, let's say, physical life and your spiritual life, those are glass balls. If you drop them, they could break forever and you might never get a chance to save them. But your finances, your business, your job, maybe even your personal life, in some cases, if you drop it, it's a rubber ball that could bounce back. So what I like about this is even within the 7 areas of life, there's a way to prioritize them. And what they talk about is you can't be successful in business if you're unhappy at home, or you can't be successful in your company if you have no energy because you're not sleeping and eating well. So it kind of prioritizes where you need to spend time. But we'll go through, I'll just show you real quick what some of my goals are for my life. And if they change, they change. But I at least want to have a North Star goal in these areas to say, what would success be? And then another thing that I like to think about is, okay, if I was even getting close to that, where could I push that goal to so that I can keep kind of running towards something and never really achieve the goal? Another important concept. Okay, next we're gonna talk about breaking it down into actionable steps. So one of my favorite books, you guys may know it, it's The 12-Week Year. I think it's a really important way to compress timelines that we think it takes to achieve goals. Another misconception that I had was that goals need to be set on a yearly basis. So much so that even if, let's say it was the middle of the year, July or August, sometimes I would tell myself, I'm gonna start this goal come January because I need to start fresh with the new year. Completely ridiculous. I do not recommend that anymore. You can start a goal anytime. The calendar doesn't mean anything. It's all just made up. But what I like a lot more than a year goal is based off a book that really impacted me in 2020 called The 12-Week Year. And it works off a lot of different concepts, but the most important one to me is that it basically compresses the timeline. What that means is that we achieve whatever we want if we put the right timeline or deadline on it. So like last year in 2020, my goal was to hit 5,000 in monthly passive cash flow for the entire year. I wanted to do that each month, but the goal was to do it in 12 months. I hit that goal, but I realized I only hit it because at the end I felt this sense of urgency and I was running out of time, which is based off this other concept called Parkinson's Law, which basically just means we let our work expand to the time we give it. So what I love about the 12-week year concept is it's taking 12 months and compressing them down into 12 weeks. So every week matters the same way that a month would, and you can achieve your year goal in a quarter because you feel this sense of purpose and timeline. And fast forward that so much for me, what my goal now is on a monthly basis, I want to add 30,000 in monthly cash flow. And that's for the quarter. Last year, my entire goal was 5,000. And what happens is you start to think so differently of, okay, if that's my goal, how can I achieve it? Who do I need to become to achieve it? Who do I need to get around or think about or talk to in order to achieve that goal? Because I can't do it all myself. So you start asking these elevated questions and then it helps organize your elevated plan. But we're gonna dig more into it. I just think it's such a good concept if people are trying to figure out how to hit their goals, their big goals in a shorter period of time. I highly recommend that book, and Brian's coming on the podcast, but just really good stuff. Okay, so now what I think is really important to dig into is the why associated to that goal. So we're gonna start getting a little more tangible here out of the high level stuff and think about what do you actually need to do to start creating these goals, and then how can you start putting pen to paper. So you hear this a lot. Simon Sinek has a great book called Start With Why. I mean it a little differently. I think there are two parts of why. There is the emotional response why of this is the why that I need to get myself out of bed in the morning. And then I think there's a tactical why of I want to make this much money so that I can do this thing that I get really excited about. I think they're both important, both worth defining, but I would start thinking about it more a little bit from the tactical standpoint of if my goal is to make $1 million a year, why do I actually want that goal? Is it because I want to tell people I was able to make $1 million? Maybe those people don't even care about you telling them. Maybe they'll dislike you more if you even tell them that you did that. Or is it more about, I want to take my family on a trip, and to do that, the trip actually costs $1 million a year. I'm just making up an example for something, but basically there's an actionable or a tactical reason why. For me, my first goal of financial freedom was I wanted to hit 5,000 a month in passive cash flow. Because me being a single guy, I knew that I spend about 5,000 a month with a little bit of buffer and expenses. So for me, there's a tactical reason. I wanted to add that much in passive income so that I could be financially free. And then the reason I wanted to be financially free is so I could leave my job. And I wanted to leave my job so I could have more time to impact more people. Like it kept moving down the line, and then we hit the emotional, okay? But I think it's important to know what is the actual tactical reason that I want to hit my goal alongside the emotional reason, okay? Maybe that's bulletin board material because your dad or your uncle told you would never be successful in anything. That could be an amazing emotional why. Now, maybe you wanna move off that at some point, but anyway, we're getting off topic. It's just important to start with the why, but know your emotional why and your tactical why. All right, the next part here is sort of tied to envisioning, but now we're getting a little bit more to the quarterly or yearly goal. What does the outcome look like if you actually hit this goal? So if your goal is to add 5,000 in passive cash flow, what does that actually look like? Does that mean you bought 3 rentals? Does that mean you started doing Airbnb arbitrage? Does that mean that you now have someone that's doing website builds for companies in your area? What does it actually look like? And it could be kind of more of a brainstorming strategy, but at least from an idea of, okay, if we hit this goal, what will it look like? What will I feel like? What do I hope to get out of it? And again, that might change the reason you have a goal, but it'll at least give you some clarity on what the goal could look like or the outcome could look like. The next thing I like to do and recommend for other people is research how the best in the world do that exact same thing or have done it before you. The mistake I used to make was trying to figure all these things out on myself and try to reinvent the wheel when everyone had already documented their process on how to buy rentals or how to become financially free through multifamily or how to start doing Airbnb. The difference was, I think I used to either just try to figure out myself or I would model people that weren't the best at what they do. So now as I'm starting to gather information, what I like to do is just follow the best people in that area. If it's on YouTube, Bigger Pockets, reading books, and only model them. I'm only trying to figure out how did this person do something amazing, extraordinary in a short period of time? And then what can I learn or follow step by step from that person? I'm not afraid to admit it. A lot of things we do in our business, we're just pulling the best practices from all the people that we admire and we're turning them into our own flavor, our own step-by-step for what we need and we want to accomplish. Okay, step number 4, what we see typically happen next, or we hope to have happen next, is a defined goal. So something that you can actually put on paper, put on a board, tell someone, this is my goal for the next quarter. I want to add this many properties, or I want to add this much cash flow, or I want to be on X number of podcasts. But we like it to come after these other things so that you can know, all right, what is my goal? Why is it there? And then we can start brainstorming a little bit more on the tactics to get there, but it's coming from a place of actual want and desire instead of something that we actually heard or read or saw on YouTube or TV once. But then start thinking about what does it actually look like from an actual goal? Instead of what an outcome would be, what would the result be? Now we want to think of the actual thing that we would like to maybe accomplish. Next, we would love to see people do this more, creating a plan or start brainstorming on the things you could do to achieve the goal based on following what the best people in the industry do, what you do well, what you like to do, and then who's around you. And we've made this mistake many times before where we just jump in. Once we have our goal, we don't even think about brainstorming the tactics. We just jump in. If it's, okay, we want to start a YouTube channel and be successful, let's just start filming videos on our phone. The problem is, it'll take a lot longer because you're not being strategic with it. Now, like again, doing that I think is still better than doing nothing and procrastinating and analyzing things all the time. Action is better than inaction, but if we're going through the perfect sequence here, after you create the goal, you'd want to start brainstorming for the tactics and ways to actually potentially hit that goal in the next quarter. I mentioned some of them before, but it could be who do you need to hire? Who do you need to become? What do you need to learn about? Do you need a mentor? All these things that'll help you maybe understand what the possibilities are if you want to achieve that goal, and that you can actually have a plan that makes sense. Because let's say your goal is to make $1 million this year. If you have no plan with the best practices with steps to do it, it can be really frustrating or kind of just wasting time week to week of I'm not getting anywhere with my goals. All right, the next thing, and we're gonna have this link below, but we like to think about what are the actual KPIs, the metrics. KPIs just stand for key performance indicators. But basically, you just wanna have a plan of what you need to do on a weekly basis to achieve that goal. And we're not talking about executing just yet. We're still talking about thinking through what are the tactics that you either need to do on a habitual basis every week, or the important sequence of things that you need to do just one time as an important to do. So we're gonna get a little deeper into that later, but it's really important to define, okay, if I wanna buy a property this quarter, that's my goal, then some of my KPIs, my scorecard metrics could be, I need to analyze a deal a day and I need to make an offer a week. That could be a little bit further, let's say. Or maybe you wanna say, I wanna network in the city that I'm looking to buy. I need to meet one new realtor every day. I need to message them on Bigger Pockets or LinkedIn or Facebook and do it that way. But at least you have maybe some ideas or a scorecard for something to follow. Like I said, we'll show you ours later, but for you, it's gonna be different depending on what you need to do over a 90-day basis. Okay, the next step is to start executing. At this point, we have our scorecard, we've done research on why we want the goal, we've done research on what the best practices are to achieve the goal, we've brainstormed on what we want to do to achieve that goal, and now it's just a matter of starting. You could do it on a start of a week, a quarter, a month, whatever, it doesn't really matter, just start. You don't have to wait for anything, but start executing and start tracking your results against that quarter. And what you'll see is that by tracking lead metrics, which are another word within KPIs, it just means something that you can affect, lead and lag measures. And lag measures are something you can affect. So an easy example of that would be measuring yourself on executing against losing weight. So if you want to lose weight, one way to think about it is I need to eat better and exercise more. Okay, so you can control that. You can't control physically the actual pounds that come off your body, but you can only control the lead measures on the front end. So when we're talking about executing and reviewing weekly, it's about looking at your scorecard every week, every day, and then just taking action on those things that you already predetermined to be helpful. And then from there, it's a matter of, is this working or not? Now, one little side tip here is what happens is, and I've fallen victim to this, and everyone has from time to time, is it's easy to get impatient. It's easy to be eating well and exercising, and you do 2 weeks in a row, you think you're killing it, and nothing happens. Now, it's not time to move off that goal. It's time to maybe reflect the lead measure and see if it's working or not, or maybe you just need to give it more time. And what we see most times is things don't happen quickly necessarily, and they take a little bit more time. That's why we like 90 days. Sprint towards a goal and you see if your outcome happened at the end. And if it didn't, you can pivot and change your lead metrics. You can beef them up or change them or just do different things. But at least you're giving it a full shot. Some things take time and some things, unfortunately, you won't see results of for a little while. Okay, and the last tip here, some of you guys might be looking for a little bit more help. And I definitely was, because I wasn't sure where to put this. But the other one would be hire a coach, find an accountability partner, a friend, or join a mastermind to basically keep you accountable on a weekly basis. It's so crazy what we are willing to do for other people that we wouldn't be able to do for ourselves. I don't know why it exists this way, but it's just social dynamics. So if you think you are that person, call a friend that you know is maybe getting after it, or call a friend that you know might have similar interests and action orientation as you and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I've got a goal, I've got a set of goals, I've got a plan behind it, I've got some metrics. Would you be open to jumping on a call every week and basically just helping each other push through our goals and make sure that if we're stuck or not feeling motivated, we can kind of be there for each other, a little bit of like a support system. And I get it, it might sound a little weird to you if you've never done something like this before. I was skeptical at the beginning, thinking like, I can just do it with discipline and willpower. Complete bullshit. You need someone who can probably help you or push you when you don't want to do it yourself. So you can find one for free, you can pay for one, but I just think it's a really important step to have if you are trying to be a high achiever and do things that other people don't do. It's kind of the reason why every professional athlete has a coach. Every team has a coach. They are looking for ways to be held accountable and get kind of advice outside of their own emotions to help them move forward and do all the things that they want to do to become great.
All right, we had a slight technical issue, so we got cut off, but we're just gonna restart right there. So basically, I just wanna wrap up with the main areas that people may make mistakes or get this wrong from my experience or just working with other people. So the first one that I see more oftentimes is people that are ambitious just jump right into whatever their goal is or their actions without coming up with a step-by-step plan. And it's awesome because they're taking action towards the goal, but they're not doing it in the right order or building the right plan or getting the right mentorship, and they end up making a lot of mistakes and end up quitting before they even get started. The second place I see people getting this wrong is not recruiting accountability. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, if it's starting YouTube, podcasts, buying real estate, I want accountability, and for most times I will recruit accountability either through a coach, accountability partner, friend, mentor, whatever it is, and I will put something on the line. So for example, doing YouTube videos, I have a bet with 2 accountability partners that I will put out 2 YouTube videos a week. And if I don't do it, I have to pay each of them $250. It might not be the most money in the world, but it's enough that makes me know I need to do something every week, and I will get it done to not let them down or have to lose this money. I don't want to throw away money that I don't need to. So I recommend if you struggle to self-start or to take action towards something, recruit accountability and put some money on the line, and you'll be amazed what happens when you do that. The third and final place I see people getting it wrong is not setting deadlines. It's so easy to put a plan together, recruit accountability, but not have a deadline of when you are going to get the thing done, the lead metric that you can control. So for me, every week with these YouTube videos, it's 2 videos every week by Sunday. It's clear, concise, and I know when it needs to be done. And if it's not, it's very easy to track. So I recommend making sure that in addition to accountability, you have deadlines for when you're gonna get that thing done. So that's it, guys. That's the step-by-step script of how I recommend getting started on your goals, what you can do to kind of put them in motion today, and where I see people getting it wrong. If you want my scorecard that I use to track my goals, my lead and lag measures, I'll put that in the bio below. If you have any questions, as always, just drop a comment, shoot me a DM, or we can take the conversation offline. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Talk to you soon. Be great.